All right, so today we're going to move into some additional factoring where our first digit is not a 1. So A is no longer going to be 1. It's going to be something bigger than 1. And our process is not going to change. We're going to pull in more of the factoring out the GCF to be able to get our factors. So it's not always going to be the number that we see there. So we're going to have to make use of our factoring calculator. And we're going to pull back in some solving. So let's go ahead and start with this difference of squares. Now, I want you to think about that I know I can take 4 times 81. So I know I can do that. And if I wanted to make use of that process and fill in my crisscross, 81 times a negative 4 is going to give me a negative 324. Okay, so remember what I'm thinking about is if I need to have standard form, I need ax squared plus bx plus c, then I have my a and I have my c. I don't have a b. So what I have is a 0 and a negative 324 here. So if I take a look at negative 324 and I pull up my factors, the only way that I'm going to get 0, if you remember, are numbers that are the same. Okay, numbers that are the same. And I don't really see that I have anything here other than the 18. So I have 18 and negative 18. So I can see the 18s right here. So I know I'm going to have a positive 18 and a negative 18. Okay, so this is a good one for us to kind of look at because this one kind of shows us what that GCF and factoring out the GCF is going to look like. Okay, so it is not always the first number. Okay, it's not always the first number. So if I take a look at what I have here, I can't divide both of these by 18. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to start looking at the smallest number. The smallest number is a 4. Well, 4 doesn't go into 18, but I know I can take out a 2. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2, and that's going to be a positive 2. Okay, now what about 81 and 18? Well, those have 9s in common. Okay, those have 9s in common. So the b is actually going to be on this term. This one is going to be a 9. Now, if I have to have 81, I know this has to be a 9. So 9 times 9 is 81. And I have an 18 and a negative 4 again. So this one's going to be a negative 2b. And we know, since these are actually difference of squares, if I think about the perfect squares, this is 9 and 9, and this is 2b and 2b. So I have 9 minus 2b and 9 plus 2b equals 0. Okay, and I want you to think back to how we solve this. We know that we're looking for the two x-intercepts, so we're looking for a point and a point so that we can make our quadratic. If we have them set equal to 0, we have to get two equations. So the first equation is going to be 9 minus 2b equals 0. 9 plus 2b equals 0. And I'm going to solve for 9. So think back to this being times 2, divide 2, plus 9, minus 9. So the 9 needs to move first. So I'm going to subtract the 9. That's gone. 2b is going to equal negative 9. I'm dividing by 2. b is going to equal negative 9 over 2, or negative 4.5. Same thing here. Subtract my 9. Negative 2b equals negative 9. This time I'm dividing by a negative 2. b is going to equal a positive 9 over 2, or a positive 4.5. So I've got a point over here at 4.5, a point over here at negative 4.5, and I have my quadratic. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at these. So now all of a sudden, a is not 1. Okay, a is not 1. Our process is not going to change, but a is no longer 1. So let's think about what we have here. A is 5, b is 27, and c is 10. So when I multiply 5 times 10, That gives me a positive 50 and a positive 27. Well, that one's pretty easy. If I think about the factors of 50, there's only 3. There's 1 in 50, 2 in 25, 5 and 10. So the ones that are going to work are a positive 25 and a positive 2. Okay? So when I fill in my box, the A term goes here. Remember, the C term goes here. And then 25x and 2x. And now I need to divide out a common factor. Okay? Divide out a common factor. And we're always going to start with the smallest number. And then we may go up or we may go down depending on what we know about the numbers. So let's take a look at 25 and 10. Well, I can't take out a 10. But I know that 10 and 25 are both divisible by 5. So that's going to be a positive 5. Now here I have 5 and 2. They're prime. And 2 doesn't go into 5. So that's just going to be an x. That's a 1x. What about 5 and 25? Well, 25 is divisible by 5, so that works. So I'm going to take out a 5 and an x. And here I have a positive 2 and a positive 10. Well, I know both of those are even. I can divide by 2. So I see here are my factors. So 1x plus 5, 5x plus 2. And remember, this can be x plus 5. And I'm good. And I can kind of check myself to make sure I'm right. So this is a 5x squared. If I multiply here, that's 25x. If I multiply here, that's a 2x, and 5 and 2 are 10. So 25 and 2x, that gives me 27. I know I'm good. All right, so let's take a look at this next one. So we have A, B, and C. So if I multiply A and C, my top number is a negative 20. My bottom number is a negative 4. So go ahead and hit pause, see if you can come up with the factors. And remember, we're going to fill in our boxes here. This one has 2 variables, so that means when I fill in my box, I'm going to have an A and a B because they have to be broken evenly. It has to look like this middle term. So hit pause, see what you can do with this. Okay, so let's take a look at negative 20. So I have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. That's all I have. Do I have anything here that has a difference of 4? No, there's no way for me to get a 4. So since I can go no further, this one is prime. So if they do not factor, if they don't work, you can't find anything that works, and there is no GCF here that I can pull out because I have 4s and 5s, then I'm done. Okay, I can take nothing out, so nothing is going to work on that one. Okay, let's try this one. Well, 5 times 9 is 45. That's positive. And I have a negative 18. So let's take a look at 45. I need to have a negative 18. So I see that I have a 3 and a 15. So I know that that will give me 18, but do they need to be positive or do they need to be negative? Well, I need to add them to make negative and multiply them to get positive. So they're both going to be negative. So 5x squared plus 9, put in my negative 3x and my negative 15x, and now we're going to divide. So what number can I take out of a negative 3 and a positive 9? Yeah, I can take out the negative 3. So that's going to come out on the side. What about 5x squared and negative 15x? Yep, I can take out a 5 and I can take out an x. What about 5 and negative 3? They're both prime, so that's a 1. And an x squared and an x, out has to come an x. Remember, these have to multiply. So if I know this one's a 5, then this one has to be a 1 because 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, and negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. So if I'm struggling figuring out that number, I can always figure out what times this is going to give me that box. Okay, so let's think about that this time on as we look at this one. Okay, so I need 5 times something is going to give me a negative 15. That's what I'm looking for. So, well, I know 5 times 3 is 15, but it needs to be negative. So this is going to be a negative 3. And I can check myself. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. So you can work backwards by doing a little division here. Okay, so negative 15 divided by 5 is going to give me that guy. All right, so I've got my factors. I have 5x minus 3, and I have x minus 3. Remember, we don't have to write the 1. I certainly can write the 1, but this is the best answer. Okay, let's try one where we have to take out a GCF. So one of the first hints that you might have to take out a GCF is if I multiply 3 times 63, that's a really big number. And for the most part, we don't want big numbers in the top of our crisscross, okay? So if I see that, like this one, I see all these 3s. I see a 3, a 3, a 3. That tells me probably I'm going to be able to divide out a 3. So let's go ahead and factor out a GCF of a 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 30 divided by 3 is 10. And 63 divided by 3 is 21. Now that is a much easier problem. Okay? And it's a much smaller number. So 1 times 21 and a positive 10. Well, that's pretty easy now because I know that's a positive 7 and a positive 3. So doing my crisscross, I have my 1a squared, my 21, positive 7, positive 3, take out my 7, take out my a, take out my a's and my 3's, and I have a plus 7, a plus 3, and I need my GCF, so the 3 still has to go here. Okay, so full factored form has my factors and my GCF. Now, this is equal to 0, so I'm not done. I actually have to solve these. So the two equations, a plus 7 equals 0, a plus 3 equals 0. So we forget about this 3 because there's no variable, so we just forget it. We need 2, not 3. So subtract my 7, a equals negative 7. Subtract my 3, a equals negative 3. So I have my 2 solutions, my 2 roots, or x-intercepts at that point. All right, so let's see what you can do with that today. Reach out to us if you're struggling, and we'll continue working on this some more tomorrow.